Hello and good morning everyone, and thank you for joining our SNO webinar today. So we are joined here by Chris Hibbert from Bytes and also Thelma Raphael from SNO Software.
Good morning everybody, thank you for joining today. So I'm Chris Hibbert, I'm the GM of the SAM business at Bytes. I'm going to do a very brief introduction to what we do with SNO, then I'll hand over to the sort of SNO expert Thelma to take you through today's webinar. Just in terms of a brief background, we've been working with SNO for quite a long time. As you can see from the slide, we are a strategic partner of SNO and use them for our managed services and a lot of our kind of asset management business. Our performance with SNO last year has been outstanding. As you can see, we are their growth partner of the year. We delivered a lot of business to them, and a lot of our business is underpinned by their technology. Just move on to the next slide, please. That's okay. In terms of what we do with asset management and our customers and the way we actually use particularly SNO software is it covers sort of 5 pillars. So from the left, that starts with looking at contracts and entitlement. So we'll work with you and your sort of organization to understand what contracts you have in place, what entitlement or licenses you have, and we'll work with you if you select SNO to upload data into SNO. So we can actually then practically manage the contract renewals, license entitlements, and then hopefully drive some reuse there. Moving on, we'd also then look at your inventory and IT estate to understand what software you've got deployed and how that's being used. Ideally, that would be again using SNO technology, although SNO and ourselves are in that respect technology agnostic, so they can link, and we do use other platforms, for example System Center or other tools that you may have already deployed in your estate. But today's seminar is specifically about SAP and the integration point there, and how SNO can actually complement SAP and actually enable you to manage that particular technology more effectively. Where the traditional sort of SAM business sits is in the compliance management piece. So a lot of what we do with our customers is practically looking at their estate from a contract, entitlement and inventory perspective to understand what is their license position and how can we help understand that risk and actually then remediate or drive down that risk, and that will then help us and hopefully yourselves then advise around what you need to buy in terms of procurement advisory. The idea there is to promote reuse and effective buying. So you only buy what you need, you're buying the right license for a specific need, and you're not wasting money by buying things where you've got a spare license in place. So typically we can be engaged on a project or indeed a managed service basis. So all of the things that you're going to hear about today from Thelma with regard to the SAP module fits as part of our managed service. Okay, I'll hand over to Thelma now to actually take you through the kind of core of today's session.
Good morning, everyone. So Thelma Raphael from SNO Software. In a former life, I used to be a license auditor for SAP, so I have done hundreds of audits on behalf of SAP. Very familiar with the pains customers go through in terms of managing their SAP licenses. Some of the issues that customers face is the lack of communication between departments. Sometimes procurement doesn't necessarily know what the business or the technical people have deployed. Also from a licensing perspective, not necessarily technical people who work with SAP licenses are in charge of managing those. SAP security as well will create the users and allocate roles, authorizations. So there is sometimes a lack of transparency across the organization to know where the software has been deployed, how many users are in use, what licenses are being used by the organization, what modules, what engines. So what SNO allows to do is to give that unified view, the source of truth for the organization based on factual data. So knowing what you have deployed, knowing what you have in use, and what you're entitled to use is key to a successful software asset management of SAP. In terms of the complexity of SAP, there is more than 130 different user license types. There are very well and a high number of different modules or industry packages that add complexity. So that each module will be licensed differently in terms of the engines or industry packages. The indirect usage is definitely a big focus for SAP today. So when you have a third-party application or portal linking linking to the backend of SAP, that generates licensing requirements, and also the new acquisition products. So SAP is heavily acquiring cloud solutions and other companies that also add complexity to the management of your SAP investments. A lot of customers face the challenges around how to classify their users. Is this user a professional user? Is this user a limited professional user? Is this user an employee or ESS? So if you go back to the contracts and you read the definitions of professional and limited professional user, it's all very grey. So the professional user will be something in the contract that will be an operational user. The limited professional will be limited operational user, which doesn't give a clear guidance on how to segregate those. So what Snow can do is provide the factual data that will allow you to do the segregation and automate the classifications based on factual data. So indeed, SAP has 50 shades of grey, as I've heard a colleague in the industry saying, and that's probably a very accurate way to describe it. So there's the analysts in the industry are saying that SAP is now auditing customers more and more in depth than before, and a high number of customers are seeing unbudgeted bills presented to them based on indirect usage. So SAP believes there's 7 billion US dollars worth of revenue through indirect usage. So a number of customers, on top of their law reports, so the license administration workbench report, they are having to provide to SAP declarations on third-party applications, number of users, and then that will be the basis of the discussion for the indirect usage bills that are presented in the end of the day. What we also see in most of our customers is that most customers have 20% coverage, extra, 20% more licenses than they actually need, and that's due to the lack of visibility in terms of seeing what is actually being used. SAP actually based on the price list. It's not based on your discounted price that you've purchased those licenses. So if you get the distribution wrong in terms of the user licenses, you are overspending year on year. So it can be a big financial impact that needs to be controlled. Some key stats I would like to share with you today. So in terms of, from our experience, we see that 30% of our customers actually are, of their estates are incorrectly licensed. 10% of those 30% is actually users that are no longer in use, but they still have an active user master record in SAP. The remaining 20% is incorrect user classification. An example, when a customer forgets to classify a user in a production system, the user will default to the professional user license, which is the highest chargeable in a production environment. So again, the distribution, the allocation of the license is key to get the more value for your money in your SAP investment. So we use this expression that SAP is like licensing is like an open cafeteria without a cashier. Why is that? Because there's no hard limit, technical hard limit that will stop you from creating more users when you've gone above your entitlement. You can still keep on creating more users, and the same applies to the engines. If you have purchased, for example, 500 payroll records, and if you're using 600, there's no technical hard limit to stop you. but once you declare your usage, once you run your log report, that's going to show, and SAP is going to come back and ask you to license the remaining usage. So Optimiser, what it does, it collects data from all the SAP systems that you've connected to Optimiser, and will be used to look at the inventory data, so your usage data, and we will allow for usage optimization of your estate, license retirement, and recycling. We will also collect all the data from the rules and authorizations, and that data is also critical to help you with your role tuning or role auditing. We also can mitigate, with using Optimize, you can also mitigate the risks around non-compliance risks, namely indirect usage, multiple logons, and incorrect user classification. So Optimizer is used as a complement to a SAM advisory service, and the technology itself, it's written in the native SAP language, so the ABAP language, and is SAP certified. In terms of how it works, this is an agentless deployment. The installation of Optimizer is basically an installation of transport files onto a master system. So master system is actually our Snow terminology. How it's installed is typically installed on Solution Manager, but it could be other SAP system. The reason why customers generally speaking, decide to install Solution Manager because the RFC connections are already in place to all the satellite systems or child systems. And the way the Optimizer will communicate with the child systems is using the RFC connections that I explained, and having communication users with the right of authorization rules on those child systems. We collect a number of data sets from all the child systems. So the data that we are collecting is the change document data, transaction data, selective HR data. So if you have HR data in your SAP systems, we will be collecting the commencement and end of employment of the user. So assess whether the user is still active or not in HR. The user master records data, so the last login data is one of those information in the user master records. The role information, so roles and authorizations, all the transaction codes, including the roles, CCMS data, and the system measurement data. And a database is then created within your SAP. So the data never leaves SAP. Optimizer resides in your SAP landscape. So in terms of because it resides in SAP, all the graphics, all the functionalities, they have exactly the same look and feel as any other SAP module. And we can capture all the alerts from your activity checks coming from the USMM, and we can do a number of analysis. In terms of the indirect usage, so that also comes from the activity checks. In the activity checks, there's 3 activity checks targeting indirect usage. Those are volume of work, work time, and cross-component usage. So we can drill down into those indicators and see where the problem is coming from. So what system is that coming from? What's the user behind that indicator, that red flag essentially, and what are the details of that red flag. The same can be said for the multiple logons. We can drill down and see who are the users that are behind the multiple logons, what are the peaks, multiple logons that they have, and so on. So all of this information, raw data, is essential to mitigate those risks. So in terms of having Snow Optimizer installed, it's not just a one-in-time activity. It should be an ongoing management of your SAP investment. You should continuously be monitoring and optimizing your SAP estate. So ideally once a quarter you should be doing these activities. for example, once you submit your law report, it's going to capture the activity for the last 3 months. So if you have deleted a high number of users in the last 3 months, or if you have expired a high number of users in the last 3 months, that's going to be captured when you submit your measurement back to SAP. So if you have a process in place where you monitor your SAP licenses, you're not going to have red flags around a cleanup just prior to the audit. So it's important to do this exercise as part of a best practice SAM management of your SAP licenses. So with Optimiser, we can automate, we can essentially create rules which will create boxes to allocate the user licenses that you have in your contract. And based on factual usage data, we can automate the changes in the license type to the child system. So instead of having to do a manual classification going into each system individually, you can then do the classification out from Optimiser, and the changes will be pushed back to the satellite system. In terms of the automation, we can also automate the start of the system measurement, so the USMM can be triggered from Optimiser to all connected systems. We can also automate alerts and warnings for your user licenses, engines, and activity checks. So if you have in your contract, and I keep using the same examples just for to simplify, if you have 500 payroll records, you can customize in the warning function that when it goes above that threshold, you get a notification and you're fully informed of where you potentially have a shortfall. Most importantly, one thing that I haven't covered yet is once we are able to identify a spare number of licenses, SAP is very open to horse trade those licenses against new modules, new products, namely HANA. So SAP is now pushing HANA. So HANA is believed to be the next generation. So we are at the R3 at the moment. So in the Sapphire conference that happened a few weeks ago, HANA is believed to be the S4. So instead of being the R4, the S4. So it's not just one number up, it's actually one letter up. And a lot of customers are now trying to find budget to buy HANA. And this is where as well we can help identify what spare licenses you have and potentially horse trade those licenses against HANA. So in terms of the benefits of having Snow Optimiser, it enables customers to identify the correct allocation of licenses based on factual data. It will give you visibility of all the transactions performed by the user. So on the roles and authorizations functionality, you'll be able to see all the transaction codes under the roles, and you'll be able to see which transaction codes have been used by what users. So it will allow you to identify if you have roles that are now becoming obsolete. You can refine those roles based on the factual data, the usage data. It also empowers customers to be on top of their compliance through the constant monitoring of their SAP estate. It will help you identify if you have indicators, red flags around indirect usage. It will allow you as well to do the retiring of the licenses and expiring of the users when they're not being used. And ensures, of course, the ultimate goal is to get more value for money in your SAP investment. So the ultimate goal is that you get the more value out of your investment, that you actually have the correct distribution of licenses that you need for your business. And these are the key benefits, I would say, for most customers. So I'm probably going to let customers ask a few questions.
Okay, thanks, Telma. So yes, if you do have any questions, you can just pop those in the questions box, which is just at the right-hand side of your screen. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes to see if you have any questions. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions today, but thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Telma, for presenting the webinar today. Also, if you'd like to see a demo at all, just pop that in the feedback form, which is at the end, or if you'd like a callback or any more information, yes, just pop that in the feedback form. So thank you everyone for joining today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.